Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, taking you on a historical trip. We're here at the Mine Creek battlefield, the site of the most bloody battle of the Civil War in the state of Kansas. I do have an external microphone hooked up. It is windy. I hope that it's acceptable sound quality, and we do hope that you'll give us your patience on that. But this is the Mine Creek battlefield where the Confederate and Federal forces battled each other in Lincoln's War, also known as the American Civil War by poor historians. But Lincoln's War was fought here, and in these fields we're going to take you over to the Union lines, and we're going to use the rods and see if we can talk to some people there, or at least find locations of some of the fallen. We'll also take you to the Confederate lines, and we'll do the same there. Just to give you a little background of this whole thing, the reason that this even happened is because General Price of the Confederacy was sent out by Robert E. Lee to capture St. Louis, to capture Jefferson City, and install a Confederate governor in the capital. Wanted to collect supplies and weapons for the struggling Confederacy and recruit soldiers from the large population of Missourians and Kansans who were sympathetic to the Confederacy's side. But as he got to Missouri, he found that St. Louis and Jefferson City were both too heavily fortified. So he did get a lot of provisions, had a supply train of 500 wagons, and as he was heading south, this way where we are, south, he came across some Union combatants in state line, Kansas, Missouri state line, a series of battles over a few days in October, which devastated the Confederate forces under General Price, and finally culminated in them having to go to battle right here where we are at the Mine Creek battlefield. And as you can see, this is where we are, and we can get a look at the Union. The Union positions would have been over here somewhere. The Union positions would have been over here somewhere, which is interesting. And then the Confederate lines are out there in that tree line. So we want to take a look at these lines and see what we can see and learn what we can learn. The Union line's actually across the street over there. That's fascinating. I don't think we're going to be able to get to the Union lines then. That's very interesting. But yeah, all the way over there, it looks like behind those trees and whatnot were the Union lines. It seems like it's a long, long way away from where the Confederate lines would be, which is over there in those trees. So very interesting stuff. But we're going to go ahead and go into we're at the historical site. There's some cool things to look at in here. We'll take a look at that, and then we're going to walk out to the Confederate lines. Now we may go ahead and end this particular podcast after we get out of the inside. Hello there, folks. Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. After we get through the inside, we might go ahead and end that podcast and start another one when we get out to the Confederate lines and pull out the rods. I just don't know how far of a distance that we're talking about or thinking about. But let's go inside and let's take a look at some of the artifacts inside this great building that will teach us a lot about this historic battle. Just a quick look inside. You got some of the Confederate war outfitters, some of the Union. Hello, ladies. And this is a replica, I've been told by an expert, of a Union artillery piece. Very well crafted. It would have been rifled if it was real, but this one is not rifled. And just some great looks at some of the artifacts and examples that are here. Very well put together. Great people. Looks like here's some of the things that were found here actually in the field. Horseshoes, projectiles that were fired. Oh, and I did want to show you real quickly, this gives you some real perspective on the battle and on the comparative weaponry used. If you look at the bottom here, these are Union weaponry, and you can see it was repeater, so very easy to fire, and especially easy to fire from horseback, and this was a cavalry battle. So these bottom two Union rifles, you can see they are repeaters. You can cock that and load from the top and go from horseback. This is a Confederate rifle. You got to fire it once, then you got to take out the jammer there and clean it out, stuff your wadding, stuff your projectile, which you cannot do on horseback. So as the experts here told me, and it seems very true, once you shot your shot, you then had a really nice club. So it's very interesting. It's almost amazing how the Confederacy was able to keep pace and fight for so long when they were obviously outgunned. A lot of a lot of talk about that, how that could happen, but speculation is the word I was looking for. So let's go in here and take a look at some of this interesting stuff in here. More some of a field medical kit. You know what that saw is for. That's not something that you wanted to see, that's for certain. And you know, we talked about how Lincoln federalized the monetary system during this time. This was the reason for the war, and here's some of your military script that started that. And it's interesting, look at how well outfitted the Union soldiers were with their weaponry, with their great clothing, their superior weaponry. Again, there's the Confederate weaponry in the back, single shot. And then I want you to notice here again more Union weaponry. And then notice, ladies and gentlemen, here's a great contrast. The Union's uniform and the Confederate uniform. Wow. How could these guys, so poorly provisioned and so severely outgunned, have lasted and fought and withstood the great Union Army for so long? Makes you think that they were fighting for a cause they believed in. Makes you think that their freedom spurned them forward. But that's just speculation, isn't it? That's just speculation. So let's go ahead and head back outside and take a look at what's going on out here and make our way over towards the Confederate lines. Nice to have you with us here today on the Christian Whistleblower channel as we look at the Mine Creek Civil War battlefield. And I think what we'll do is go ahead and end this podcast now and walk out to where the Union or the Confederate lines would have been approximately, and then we'll come to you with another podcast with the rods, seeing if we can talk to some individuals, locate some individuals, and see what we can stir up with the rods. So I'm going to take a walk out here to the Confederate lines at the Mine Creek battlefield site of Lincoln's War. So stay tuned. In just a few minutes we'll be back with part 2 of this great podcast from this solemn site. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. We'll be right back. Gotta take my glasses down to figure out how to end it.